Hello everybody, it is a late night Word Nerd Wednesday because I've had a day and basically pretty much almost forgot. But today, since I've kind of been on this theme this week, we're going to talk about 3 words that seem closely related but are not, well, not all of them are related. So those words are niggardly, well, niggardly, that's Niggard, then the word detestable, yes, but a word all the same, nigger, and the word negro, or negro, as it became in English, since, you know, gringos don't know how to pronounce nothing and nada. So, not even English. So, here's the interesting thing about this word, okay? Now, niggardly, like with an A, with 2 A's, I lie, with an I and an A, and which is actually technically closer to the abbreviation Niggard, which I don't really use. Usually if I do use it, I use it for anybody who's not black, you know, just to sort of balance the scales. So niggardly is from the late 14th century. It predates both the word nigger and the word negro, but doesn't necessarily predate the word negro, meaning black in Spanish and Portuguese. So in terms of the contemporary usage of those latter 2 words, niggardly is their elder. And actually, I think it's a way more awesome word. I mean, anything is more awesome than the words nigger and negro. But niggardly is actually quite interesting. It means a mean person and a miser. It comes from Niggard, of uncertain origin. Apparently ard, the suffix, is French, but the root word is suggested. It's a theory. It's not actually known definitively, but people believe it is from a word from the 1300s in Scandinavian for stingy, related to an Old Norse word, snogr, which means stingy. I probably pronounced that wrong. From a Proto-Germanic word, which is crazy. It's spelled K-H-N-A-U-W-J-A-Z, knaujas. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Which they say is related in Swedish and in German, but then the meaning falls off from what it was used today. And also because it's a perhaps, I don't feel the need to go into those words because they're not. It's a theory that they're related, but they actually, those words, the older words mean close and careful and precise and exact. Actually, that makes sense. Stingy, right? So source of Swedish, it says njugg, close, careful, or German genau, or genau, precise, exact. And from Old English, from a word that went out of usage called snö, stingy, and also meaning niggardly. So I actually think there are a lot of niggardly people in this world, and I can say that, and so can anybody else. Anyone can use this word because actually its purpose is useful and it carries the same harshness, but without it being racial. Now, anyone can be stingy and mean, but, you know, for instance, Trump's a niggard, you know, like that works in this context. And again, niggard, N-I-G-G-A-R-D, predating what I go on to next. So then we go to the middle child, which is nigger. Now, I'm not one, like I said, to typically use the word nigger. I know people who don't use it at all, and I know people who use it basically in lieu of every other word in the dictionary because they are not ambitious enough to find other words to fill in the space. They use it like or like, or like and you know, free speech and all that, but you sound basic. So nigger is from 1786, from earlier neger or neher, I don't know, it's from Scottish and a Northern England dialect from 1568, from French negre, that didn't sound French at all, but go with me here, from Spanish negro. Now, in American language, from the earliest, that word was used to be offensive. But obviously in Spanish, it meant several things: dark, gloomy, all these other things. But I will quote something from 1965 cited in Gowers, where it says, the term that carries with it all the oblique, oh God, it has a word I don't know how to pronounce, oblique, whatever word, people out there, help a girl out. It carries with it all the contempt and rejection which whites have inflicted on blacks, is cited in Gowers, 1965, and obviously was used to offend from the beginning. And also, I mean, is it just inaccurate? Like, nobody black, okay? Nobody black, nobody white. Not even albino is white, because the blood that rushes under their skin causes pigmentation, which makes them look rosy and chalky at the same time. So basically, nigger is a terrible word. If you want to use it, you foul. If you don't care if it's used, you ignorant. And let's move on to the eldest child, arguably the eldest child. Negro, which became Negro. Negro is the youngest child, but Negro is the oldest child. So it gets a little confusing. Now, Negro, member of a black-skinned race of Africa, came from 1550s, from Spanish or Portuguese, negro meaning black. So in Spanish and Portuguese, I don't know that that was actually used as an offense. I just think that for them, you know, it's kind of like Charlie Murphy says in Dave Chappelle's show, it's like they were the darkest motherfuckers around. So they were called darkness. So because African people were so much darker than anyone the Spaniards and the Portuguese had ever seen, they called them black. But just to get at their skin tone, I don't think it was originally meant to be a derogatory term. It was just like, those are the darkest motherfuckers around. Because actually, negro comes from Spanish and Portuguese by way of Latin nigrum and a Niger. And it means black, dark, sable, dusky. And so for that reason, in Spanish, it's not necessarily offensive. You're just like, oh, the dark person, whatever, whatever. Just like you'd be like the light person or the pale person or whatever. But as it transferred in the 1550s into English, it was assimilated to mean specifically a member of a black-skinned race of Africa. Now, a black-skinned race is obviously inaccurate. Black is a shade. White is a shade. Everything in between is colors. White is the absence of all color. Black is the amalgamation of all colors. No one is black. No one is white. I think it's a very lazy terminology. I think it's also highly inaccurate. I mean, clearly and obviously inaccurate. And I also just think it is annoying because people keep referring to white and black as colors and they shades, okay? So let's get it together. So, yeah. So, niggardly, nigger, Negro, or let's do it like this: negro, niggardly, nigger, negro. So that's the order in which the words came into play, because negro, coming from Latin, as far as I imagine, would be at least older or comparable with niggardly from Scandinavian. Now, what do we learn from this? Never use the word nigger unless you want to be, you know, karmically hurt, physically hurt, basic, ignorant. Negro, I don't know why you would use that word. I know in Europe some people still use that word, and it shocks me every time I hear it, but they have a different kind of racism over there than we have in America. And then, you know, if you choose to use the word nigga, that's on you. If you are not a person of direct African descent, since we all come from Mama Africa, then I don't know why the fuck you want to use that word, but I would suggest you don't do it. And then this very interesting word, niggardly, which if I'm going to use the word nigga from now on, I'm going to mean that word, because phonetically cutting it off, it's more accurate. If you wanted to abbreviate the word nigger, you'd have to call someone nigga, not nigga, you know? Subtlety, but language is important, right? The way that we use, where things come from, all this. So, interestingly enough, niggardly and nigger are not related. And for that reason alone, I think niggardly is a very appropriate word to use. The thing is, there's no niggar. It's niggard or niggardly. Those are the only two ways to technically use the word correctly. If you go down to nigger, if you drop the D, you are talking the offensive nigger. But if you say that person is a niggard or that person is niggardly, you ain't talking about the race. You're talking about them being a stingy ass, terrible, mean person. Like, what's that motherfucker from The Christmas Carol? Scrooge? Or is that the duck? But he's called Scrooge McDuck because the real dude in the story was called Scrooge. So if you a Scroogey type, if you a Trump, you is niggardly and a niggard. However, if you are a person with a lot of melanin pigmentation in their skin, you are neither a nigger or a Negro, but you are Negro because you're darker than other things, right? And then if you a stingy ass African person or a stingy ass person with a lot of melanin pigmentation in your skin, then you is niggardly or a niggard, but it don't mean what you think it means. So that's my quick little lesson today because it's been a long day. I don't know. I always find it weird to end these things. Basically, niggardly, niggard, yes. Nigger, never. Nigga, you better be correct. Come correct with it. You better be of a particular kind of pigmentation. I would like to say, I'm going to put a number on it, which is controversial, but I'm going to say like 40%. 40%. Or, you know, let's borrow from 3/5 and say 35%, at least 35%. Get tested. And if you pass that, then, you know, if you're 35% black, I say you consult someone who's at least 50% black to see if you can use that word. And if you're 50% black, use that word as you wish to use that word. See, now I'm using this black shit. This is why I hate this fucking word, because it's so unhelpful. It's just like not descriptive enough. I think personally, in the future, pigmentation should be done by percentage. If we're going to talk about how much melanin someone has in their skin, or conversely, the lack of melanin in their skin, then on your ID it should be like 12% lack of melanin, or 50% lack of melanin, or opposite side, 76% melanin having pigmentation. I think it should be that technical. I think people should really get down to the nitty gritty. And personally, I think everybody should have a blood test or a DNA test and know what their genetics are, so that some of the people who be hating find out the real truthy truth that they probably have a lot of black in them. So that's Word Nerd Wednesday. Went a little controversial here. I will be putting a star where the I is in nigger when I typed this underneath the video, but I just thought it was worth some clarification since I had just posted that video about Kodak Black running his ignorant mouth, talking mess. So those are our words today. I hope you find this useful. You know, when in doubt, consult a black person, or just don't say it at all. I mean, why do you want to say this word? Why do you want to say this word? It's atrocious. Why do you want to say this word? You got to ask yourself that. Look in the mirror and be like, why do I want to say this word if I am a Caucasian person who knows that there's a history where this word was extremely offensive? Now, if you're Latino, or if you're Asian, or if you're Middle Eastern, or if you're Southeast Asian, or whatever, or Inuit, or whatever, and you feel the need to include yourself in that conversation, I hope you at least know someone of color darker than you, because presumably we was called black because we was the darkest motherfuckers around. And again, though, really, why do you want to use this word? Use it wisely, people, or don't use it at all. That's my suggestion. Okay, have a good one. Goodbye.